Okay, so I know we've got some folks trickling in, and we'll probably have some more folks trickling in for the first part of the event. As you come in, feel free to jump in the chat and introduce yourself, drop a link to your LinkedIn profile, maybe your name, your profession, maybe where you went to college or to school, and again, a link to your LinkedIn profile. We love to network with each other. So this is not only for us, but this is also for you all to network. This session we're calling Entrepreneurship 101, turning your ideas into successful ventures straight out of college or while working a day job. And that is actually our story. Dante Lee, I'm going to ask him to introduce himself, and myself, Will Moss. I'm the CEO of HBCU Connect. This was an entrepreneurial idea that came about, and actually how Dante and I met. But Dante, let me turn it over to you to introduce yourself, maybe some of the brands that you have launched, how people know you. Just give us a little bit of background on yourself.
All right, so a little bit of background. I graduated from Bowie State University, class of 2002. So
Yes. Oh,
I know for those who want to do the math, that was 22 years ago. It's crazy, crazy. Um, but yeah, while I was on campus, I actually started what is now blacknews.com. And I ended up connecting with Will along the way, and he gave me the idea for what is now blackpr.com. And then we launched since then blackbusiness.com, blackjobs.com. We have a site called hispanicjobs.com. We have blackhistory.com, and we got that together. So basically we just had, now it's just a whole big empire of premium web properties that help clients with their marketing when they're targeting Black consumers, help people with their PR so that Black-owned businesses can get publicity, get featured in magazines and newspapers, blogs, TV, radio station. We do a little bit of diversity recruiting. And even most recently, I got into real estate. So my daughter and I, we kind of partnered working on some real estate stuff where we're teaching, we're kind of empowering Black real estate agents and brokers, because unfortunately with us, there's always a gap, right? So we're kind of underperforming in that category. So we're trying to strengthen our numbers. But yeah, it's been 22 years.
all right. So we're gonna dig into the story. Dante is a little soft spoken, but he carries a big stick with that Black PR, man. I'll let you tell some of the stories. Like I remember some exposure, how that business came about. So I have some questions for you, Dante. You can bounce questions back to me, but let me introduce myself as well. So Dante is a serial entrepreneur. He's a friend of mine. He's someone I actually met through HBCUconnect.com. And I want to say Dante was the first paying client that I ever had on HBCUconnect.com as a college student. He called me on the phone. I was still working a day job, and he asked me, how he could advertise his business idea on HBCU Connect. And his business idea, I think at the time it was called blackheadlines.com, but he was a college student, right? He was a college student that had an entrepreneurial idea, and he was making moves. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but let me introduce myself as well. My name is Will Moss. I'm the CEO and founder of HBCU Connect, along with my partner, Sean Starks, who I don't think is here. But we launched HBCU Connect way back in 1999. It was a passion project that turned into a business that, now has, we have roughly 12, 13 team members, actually all over the country, that help us run HBCU Connect. So a passion project that turned into a business. So we're going to tell the stories and kind of how we intersected, along the way as entrepreneurs, which is why I'm so happy to invite Dante to tell his story, because he was part of my story as well along the way, and how we kind of fed off of each other and grew both of our businesses at the same time as entrepreneurs. But Dante, why don't you tell a story about how you started your first successful business from college and going. The interesting thing about Dante is that he started his business as a college student, And as soon as he graduated, this is a unique thing about it. As soon as he graduated college, he didn't go into the workforce like I did. He went straight into running his own business. I don't know anybody else that has done that. I know some people who started companies and run companies. Maybe they didn't go to college or they didn't finish college or whatever. I've seen that before, but Dante is the first person who graduated into running his own business. So Dante, why don't you tell us that story real quick?
Okay, so let me take you guys all the way back to the year 1999. That's when I started at Bowie State University. And for those of us who are old enough to remember, the major platform at the time that people was using was Black Planet.
Black Planet.
So
Yeah.
I would be on campus, go to the computer lab, and everybody in there would be on Black Planet. That's what people did back then. There was
Which
no
was not
Facebook.
Black owned, by the way.
It was not Black owned. And there was no Facebook back then. There was no Instagram. There was no Twitter. I mean, if you wanted to, I think we had MySpace, right? MySpace was around at that time. But
MySpace.
but the social media platforms back then, they were limited. And so Black people, obviously, because it was relevant to their culture, they would kind of drift to Black Planet. But at the same time, it was addictive and it was a time waster. See, nowadays you can use social media to really build a career, build a business. Back then, it was just about socializing. So I would go to the computer lab. This is way back 1999. I graduated in May 1999, and I started at Bowie State University in Bowie, Maryland in September 1999. And yeah, I would go to the computer lab, and that's what people were doing. Now, I'll throw this in there as well. I didn't know what an HBCU was until my first day of,
Yeah.
I was a little bit ignorant. And it wasn't that I didn't grow up around Black people. I just didn't grow up around Black people talking about HBCUs. So here I am on campus. I didn't even know what HBCU stood for. First day of school. And then when I learned what it stood for, it kind of fascinated me. Like, wow, I didn't even know that. I remember being in the school library and I discovered Black Enterprise magazine for the first time in my life. I'm 19 years old. I ain't never seen or heard of Black Enterprise magazine. And here they had the whole, they had all the editions. So I was going through that and I was just like, the wheels had already started spinning in my mind because the first thing that popped up in my mind, and this might sound silly to some people, but at the time this was real. I was like, wow, I didn't know a Black person could own a business because I didn't know any Black people who own businesses. And here I got a whole magazine, a whole catalog of magazines that's all about Black entrepreneurship. So when I'm in the computer lab and I see these people wasting time on Black enterprise, in my mind, I was like, no, I don't want to waste my
Black
time.
Planet.
Oh, sorry, Black enterprise, but Black Planet, correct. It just wasn't in my nature to be sitting around wasting time like that. So I started really thinking about how can I start a business? And the best idea I could come up with at the time was to create another site that was similar to Black Enterprise, because it was just fascinating to me that they had so many stories about people that look like me that were business owners. And I'm not, Black Enterprise, they're not talking about barbershops and hair salons. They're talking about real business stuff. So I decided to create this new site. At the time, it was called blackbizjournal.com. I was like, I'm going to do exactly what Black Enterprise is doing. I did some research, figured out how I could monetize it, right? Because they had a lot of affiliate programs back there. You could run the ads, get a little commission. Then I ran into a quick problem. I started realizing that it was hard. It was harder than I realized to find stories about successful Black entrepreneurs. So then I expanded. I said, you know what? I want my website to be about anything positive, period, that Black people are doing. So as Will mentioned earlier, I changed the site to blackheadlines.com. And then that's when the site really became popular. Again, we're talking about, guys, this is almost 25 years ago, if not 25 years ago. And I wanted to promote the site. I heard about HBCUconnect.com, right? And I was a member of HBCUconnect.com. And I called the number. Will picked up. And
I was still working my day job at the time.
Yeah, so I didn't know that. So he was just getting started with the site. And like he said, his story is almost kind of like that of Mark Zuckerberg's. He created that platform and then it later became a business. But I think he may have underestimated what it would become. So I called him and I said, hey, yeah, I want to advertise. We started talking. I basically let him know up front, I'm just an HBCU student. trying to experiment with some ideas. Will supported me 100%. And then he get, I paid him. We had a little ad campaign. But then I followed up again because I'm like, I got access to the owner. He pick up the phone. So we we became a lot more than just that, right? We actually became partners because we kind of realized that even though he was a little bit older than me, and he'd already graduated from what did you graduate? Hampton University?
Yeah, 95 I graduated. Yeah.
95. Okay. So I'm still in college. He's working a day job, like he said, and he had a really good job. Who were you working for? I forgot.
AT&T Bell Labs. I was a software engineer, and so Dante would call me. I would be at work. He didn't know I was at work.
Nah.
I'd be at work. He's probably thinking we're like a business with an office somewhere. I'm still at work because it was at this point it was still a passion project. So he would call me, and I'd be talking to him. The next thing you know, and I had a cell phone or whatever at work. Next thing you know, he started calling me in the evening. I'd be at home with my kids and stuff.
Yeah.
College students. So I'm like, okay, this dude is so persistent. So this is a learning right here. We're talking about entrepreneurship 101. So while he's doing that as a college student, the thing that I'm thinking to myself is he's so persistent and he's so ahead of the curve at his age, starting a business and taking action on it, that no matter what he chooses to do, if he keeps this trajectory and this energy going towards his goal, he's going to be successful. It's just a matter of time of him hitting on whatever the idea is. So I'm thinking I need to be a part of his success story and try to be like a mentor. Let me just answer whatever questions he has because he's going to be successful at some point. So he's investing in himself so that he had momentum with his business and entrepreneurship movement. He created momentum and I saw it and it attracted me. He created gravity with his movement. So that's a learning from this session as an entrepreneur. Start right away. Like if you have an idea, don't wait around. Like don't wait around. Like start on it. Like Dante was a college student. He started on it. He took whatever resources he could get. So I became a resource to him, and he started. And I mean, like we have so many stories of things that happened after that. But Dante, I'll let you continue.
Yeah, I mean, basically everything you said is right. So basically what happened is we developed a relationship that was more partners because I started making a little bit of money. I wasn't making a lot of money, but for a college student, yeah, I was making a little bit of money. So there's these programs called affiliate programs where basically you promote the advertiser and they pay you a commission either based on whatever sales you could generate, whatever leads you generate. So after a while, I started to realize where Will was. I mean, his business has always been big and successful. But when I came to know that, okay, he's still working a job doing this, I started, sharing information. I was like, hey, bro, I just made $10,000 with this offer. I think you should try it too because you got a bigger audience than me. So I would, I'm not stingy with information. I want to see everybody win. So I would share the information with him and he would run it and he would make money too. And then that really consolidated what we were trying to do because we were like, now he was helping me at being a mentor and I was feeding him tips, that I was figuring out and learning. And
that's a big learning from this, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you guys a detail of Dante's leaving out a couple of details that are huge. And so one is networking and building relationships as you're building your business. Yeah. And then two, he just said he wasn't stingy with information. So two, by me, so I was doing the same thing. He called me and asked me questions and I answered the questions and try to be helpful to him, right? I didn't know how I was going to pay off or whatever. I'm just trying to help the young brothers like make it, right? So he started to feed me back with the relationship. So one of the things when he started making money with the affiliate programs, he told me about it. He said, you should try it. And so this is how helping people pays back, right? So I call myself helping Dante, right? So he gave me the affiliate program. I send the affiliate program out to the members of HBCU Connect, right? It was like I remember it was a
scholarship offer, right?
It was student loan consolidation.
Okay.
So obviously with HBCU Connect, a lot of people have student loans. They would take advantage of this offer. I emailed it out. He sent me the information. I emailed it out, but I used his affiliate code. So basically all of the money that I would have made with me sending that email out, it all went into Dante's account. And so he was calling me like, yo, man, this affiliate program is blowing up. I'm making all this money. And I'm like, man, I haven't seen any money. Like I haven't seen anything happen. But because we built this relationship, we figured out what happened with I used his code instead of mine. And we split the money that came in. So Dante sent me a check and said,
Yeah.
you know, so that solidified the trust that we had in our relationship as two entrepreneurs starting out. But we were helping each other, not being stingy or crabs in a barrel. We're trying to push each other up. So Dante, that was the most money I had made at the time on HBCU Connect as a result of Dante reaching out to me and sharing information. So Dante, what happened? So you started Black Headlines, right? You started making money with affiliate programs. And another learning from, you know, Entrepreneurship 101 is you're a serial entrepreneur. So you started different businesses. So what was the next major business you started after you started making revenue through affiliate marketing with your first website?
So, okay, so as you mentioned, it was at the time, it was called blackheadlines.com. And I remember having a conversation with you, and I said, hey, man, people are starting to send me their stories. Like, people are sending me press releases and such.
You were complaining about
it. I was complaining a little bit about it, yeah, because I was getting inundated with it.
Yeah.
And you said, hey, why don't you charge them to feature their story on your site? And that got the wheel spinning. Because
let me throw something in there. So what I was trying to share with Dante was turn your problems into opportunities for your business. If people keep coming to you, let's say you start a business, right? Let's say you start a lemonade stand. And at your lemonade stand, everybody keeps coming and asking you for directions. Like, let's say you had a lemonade stand, right? You're trying to sell lemonade, but everybody that comes to your stand is like, hey, how do I get around the corner to the Walgreens or whatever? You might turn that opportunity that might be annoying at first. And it's just like these people keep asking me about questions. I'm trying to sell lemonade. They keep asking me about directions. So the light bulb should turn on in your head that the opportunity for you based on your positioning is to turn their problem into a business opportunity. So all those people asking for directions instead of asking for lemonade, you could provide them with a map that costs 50 cents or $1 or whatever, right? So when Dante started talking to me about all of these people, there were people in jail that was emailing him like, I need to get out of jail. Like my situation is bad. Here's my press release and stuff. And they was sending them. And he expressed that problem to me. I was like, dude, that's your opportunity. So go ahead and tell them the story how you went with the next business opportunity.
Yeah, let me add to that what you just said. Like you said, if you have a lemonade stand and people start asking, hey, where can I get a hot dog? You might be thinking, the sign says we do lemonade. Why are you asking about hot dog? Like, you need to start selling hot dogs. There's enough people. If you see the demand, don't ignore it. But yeah, so basically, you gave me the idea, right, of monetizing that. And I took it further, right? Because I was familiar with a service that was out there that would actually help people send their press releases out to all the Black newspapers and magazines. But they were expensive, even for back then. They were charging, I mean, I don't know if this is a lot of money nowadays. I mean, because that company still exists. They charge about $400, but they were charging $400 25 years ago. That's a lot of money for a new business. So I kind of came up with, why don't I create a service where I can help people get their press releases to the Black media, plus they could be featured on my site as a bonus. And that's where blackpr.com was born. And blackpr.com is still in business 25 years later. And we're still helping people do that. Now, I graduated somewhere in there. This is a little bit fuzzy because this is a long time ago, you guys. Somewhere in there, I graduated 2022.
It's a little fuzzy.
I mean, it was a long time ago. Think about it, bro. All of our kids are grown. When I met you, your kids, I remember when your son was born. How old is he now?
22.
There you go. And my kids are, older than that. I mean, well, my stepchildren are older than that, but my son, he's 18. So anyways, I ended up moving to California, right? I had this idea. I was living in Maryland at the time, and I had met some people from California that were doing big things, and they were basically, 100% supportive. And that's another thing I want to throw in before I go ahead. when I first started my business, the first person that I met that really believed in what I was trying to do was Will. And I want you guys to know that that's normal. You may not find anybody that believes in what you're trying to do, and that shouldn't matter to you. You should go forward anyways. I don't know what it is, but there are a lot of people that will try to shoot you down when you're trying to start a business, and it'll be your own family sometimes. Don't worry about that. Move forward, and let yourself be motivated, inspired by other entrepreneurs uh, that you could read about, especially nowadays, that are doing big things. And that was kind of how I was using Black Enterprise. I mean, when I say I use Black Enterprise for my motivation, it was just like there's pages and pages full of people who look like me who are successful in business. I know I can do this. Now, when I was on HBCU campus, and this is not a diss to my HBCU, but even they weren't very supportive of what I was doing because people knew what I was doing. I'm the only one in the computer lab that's not on Black Planet. And I'm building, so I had a couple of classmates, they were laughing at me and stuff like that. That was fine. But even the dean, I remember the dean came in once because what happened was my freshman year in college, I had like a 4.0 GPA. And then by my sophomore year, my GPA had dropped to a 3.4, which is still fine, right? But the dean pulled me to the side, and one of my professors pulled me to the side. They're like, "Yo, your GPA is dropping." And they said, "Also, we noticed you're not participating in on-campus activities." And I told them straight up, "I'm building a business, And they were like, "No, you shouldn't do that. You should, you should follow." They wanted me to follow this path. I'm not sure how HBCUs are now when it comes to entrepreneurship, but back then they wanted you to follow the path of, be active on campus, enjoy the HBCU experience, and then prepare yourself for getting a job. And my thing was like, I'm already making money, I'm already. And then the other thing I knew was I was like, earning a college degree doesn't guarantee you anything. There are a lot of unemployed college graduates. So anyways, I moved to California, right? I stayed in contact with Will, of course. And by that point, we were really working together and collaborating and making money together. And when I was in California, I realized that I needed to change the name for blackheadlines.com. And I realized what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be blacknews.com, but I didn't own the domain at the time. But I knew who owned the domain. So I reached out to him. This is a kind of a funny story, kind of a sad story too, though. So I reached out to the guy. I don't know if you guys, if you go way back, you'll remember there was a site called Net Noir. It was a very popular site that was for and about Black people. And they were based in Baltimore, Maryland. I called the guy. I said, "Hey, I'm a young, just graduated, young entrepreneur. I really want to buy it." Because he wasn't even using blacknews.com.
He just owned it.
He just owned it, exactly. So I reached out to him. And back then you could search a domain and actually get a phone number. Now you can't do that. But back then, if you wanted somebody's domain, you could get the number, get the email on it. So I reached out to him. He picked up the phone. I asked him for it. He said $50,000. I was like, $50,000. So it wasn't no big deal. I just had to move on with my plans. But check this out, guys. And this is the importance of reading. Like I always say that readers are leaders. Make sure that you're reading. I don't care what you're reading, whether it's Bloomberg, whether it's Wall Street Journal, whether it's Black Enterprise, CNBC, whatever it may be. Make sure you're keeping your ears to the street. Because guess what? I picked up a Black newspaper once. And I saw a story about this guy. I can't even remember what his name was, but I recognized his name at the time. And he was going to prison for investment fraud. And I said, the first thing that popped up in my mind is, oh man, that's the guy who owns blacknews.com. I said, I wonder if he's having a going to jail cell. And so, excuse me, I called him back. This is like maybe a year before our initial conversation. I called him back and his assistant picks up this time. And I said, "Hey, I heard about what happened, sorry about what happened. I just wanted to know if maybe you guys are liquidating assets and you might want to sell blacknews.com to me." She says, "Okay, let me ask her." She comes back and says the same thing. "Yeah, $50,000. So I said, "I don't have $50,000, but I'm a young HBCU graduate, young entrepreneur. I can really take that domain and use it to uplift our community. Can you guys work with me, you know, with a more reasonable price? She says, hold on. She comes back. She says, okay. He said he'll give it to you for $5,000. I didn't even have $5,000. So I said, do you think he'll take monthly payments? She said, what? You want me to go back to him and ask him, will he take monthly payments? I said, well, I can put like 2,500 down and I'll pay the rest off in 2 months. She's like, I'm not going to him with that. I'm like, just ask him. And, you know, we got nothing to lose. So she went back and asked him and he said, yes. He said, yes. So I got the hustling. I made that payment, got the hustling, because I really wanted to pay this off before he started his sentence, because I felt like the transaction might get lost after that. Sure enough, I was able to get the domain. And sure enough, this guy went to prison. Now, I looked him up recently. He actually, he only went to prison for about maybe 8 to 10 years. But then after that, he ended up getting sick and dying from it. But the moral of the story is that I was very persistent about getting that, because it was all about brand recognition. So here's another like nugget that I want to drop for you guys. When you're running a business, you always want to create that "I think I heard of you" syndrome. So when I finally got blacknews.com and I was kind of pairing that with blackpr.com, and those were like my first major products, even people who hadn't heard of me before, because it sounded so official, they would do business with me because they're like, yeah, I think I heard of that before. And that was a powerful moment in my career as an entrepreneur. So yeah, so that was the beginning of everything. Now around that time, me and Will, we're still in contact, and I got married out in California, and Will started convincing me. Will was at the point where he was ready to leave his job behind, right? Is my timeline right, Will?
Yeah, that's correct.
He was ready to do HBCU Connect full time. And I was all for that, because I was like, bro, I'm already doing this. This is working, and you have a stronger platform, and you're a lot smarter than me, because Will is y'all don't know that Will when Will says that he built HBCU Connect, he means that literally. Like, he built that with his hands. Will is like a master programmer. So I was like, I know for a fact.
Dante's a master marketer. He's being modest. He's a genius marketer.
So iron sharpens iron. That's the thing. We both, we both were masters at something, and we knew that we would do even better if we were working together. So I don't know. Was it you that convinced me to move to Columbus, Ohio? Or
I was like, come on now. I think you visited.
mm-hmm.
And so the learning from this, so we're telling you guys a story, and we're going to open it up to live Q&A. But just for like background sake and credibility sake, Dante's businesses have made millions of dollars. Okay, HBCU Connect is a multi-million-dollar business as well. Now, that's just for like reference, right? If you're trying to grow a business, and the kind of experience that we have running businesses that can generate millions of dollars, that's what we're bringing to the table to share with you today. And by telling this story, it's going to give you background, but also there's going to be learnings along the way. And one of these big learnings is partnership. So Dante was in California. He's my major partner, because every time we get together, we throw ideas at each other, and what's working for one of us, we share, and it starts working for both of us.
We was making money. Every time we collaborated on ideas, we was making money.
It was partnership. So I said, hey, Dante, California is expensive, man. I'm getting ready to quit my job, and I'm going to get an office space. You can come to Columbus, Ohio, and you can work out of my office. You get a crib. The cost of housing is way cheaper out here. You can get a whole big house, in Columbus for the price of an apartment in California. And then I was like, did you come? You didn't move until I got into the bigger office, right? I had a really small office at first. It was like
on Main Street. We was on Main Street.
Probably 6 people could probably fit in that office.
But see, I flew out to visit you, and man, I fell in love with Columbus immediately, because like Will said, one, I saw how affordable the housing was, but even more, his whole team was his family at the time, and mostly still your family now, right? And I remember your dad was alive back then, and they were in this office, and I was just like, oh, this is where I need to be. Like this, it was a very, very motivational environment to be around. So I was sold like the first day I got to Columbus. But I was in the process of getting married, so that was the, that delayed things a little bit. But once I did get married, yeah, we moved. We literally uprooted from California to move to Columbus, Ohio, so that I could be working with Will and his brother and Reggie and his sister and everybody else that was a part of the team at the time.
Yeah. So
And
we got a bigger office space, um,
mm-hmm,
and we start growing our teams.
mm-hmm,
Now let me give some background on my kind of company and story, and then I want to open it up for Q&A so people can get the most out of this. So we're just going to give you guys a little bit of background. So you know Dante's story. Dante went on to, long story short, continue to be a serial entrepreneur, to start new websites, to launch new platforms. But one thing I want you guys to think about as you start your entrepreneurial journey, Dante went straight from college into running his own business. My story is a little bit different. I worked in corporate America, started my business on the side, and then left corporate America to run the business after I proved the concept. But with Dante, even though he was being a serial entrepreneur and starting different companies that would become profitable, the thing that I noticed about Dante and his success is that he leaned in on his superpower, on his superpower. His superpower was being able to forecast where potential business is going and to launch with whatever technical knowledge he had to be able to launch products and services. But then his genius is in marketing. His genius has always been in marketing. So whether that's marketing for press releases and coming up with titles that end up on CNN, or marketing to launch a new product and knowing where to go market it online, knowing what, through trial and error, knowing what type of content to put for what audience, right? That was his superpower. So every business that he started, I noticed that he leveraged and leaned in heavy on his superpower for all of those
mm-hmm,
businesses to end up becoming successful. Now, in my case, my superpower was I knew how to write software, and I was pretty good at it, and I could write software fast. So to start my business, I didn't have to go out and get funding because I didn't have to pay for software engineers to develop the website initially. I rolled up my sleeves and wrote the code for the website and launched the website. People started using it. It started getting bigger and bigger. I started getting clients, like Dante calling me on the phone. I'm at work. So I launched my business on the side of my corporate America job. So I would work 9 to 5. Sometimes I was getting a little bit of calls here and there at work for my little side project. I would come home, take care of my kids, take care of my family, have dinner, all that good stuff. When the kids go to bed at 9:30, I would jump right back on the computer, and my second job started, which was my business that I was launching on the side. So I would work from 9 p.m. to like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning every single night, because one, I was passionate about the project and HBCU Connect and my whole HBCU experience and growing that and expanding that. And people were using the website. I wasn't making any money initially, but I launched the site and was passionate about it. And then, I would get up and go to work the next day. So, excuse me, we'll take questions in a minute, right? Let me finish giving some context. So it's launching the company on the side from a 9 to 5 day job, right? So what I want to convey to you is that it is possible. I was recently married. I had 2 kids at home. I had a full-time job. I had a mortgage. I had car payments, and I had a passion project. But because I was passionate about it and I didn't want to live like a normal life and go to 9 to 5 for the rest of my life, because I didn't want that, and I also wanted to have some security outside of the 9 to 5, I was passionate about getting this business off the ground on the side. So I did that from 1999 to 2002. 2002, what happened? The business finally started making a little bit of money. So you don't always, as soon as you launch your business, you might not make money initially, right? So it took me 3 years before we made a dime. 2002, we made about $8,000 with HBCU Connect. 2003, we made about $16,000 with HBCU Connect. I'm still working my day job. My day job was producing $75,000 to $80,000 a year, right? So it's decent living. You know, my parents were proud of me for going to college and having a good job and that kind of thing. But I had dreams and aspirations of more. I meet Dante. Dante's out doing his business, standing on his own 2 feet with no 9 to 5. So that was an inspiration for me to say, you know what? I made 8,000 the first year. I made 16,000 the second year. What happens if I quit my job that third year and just go all out? And one thing about me, and one thing, if you're an entrepreneur and you have a business that you started and you started making money with it, you don't want to look back and regret not following your dream. That was a big thing for me. I didn't want to become 60 years old and look back and remember when I was in my 20s and I had this business I started. I didn't want to look back and say, man, I wonder what would have happened with my life if I had to follow my dream of running HBCU Connect. I didn't want to look back on that. So, you know, with the pushing of Dante as my business partner, seeing him doing his thing, and my dad still being alive, saying, "Hey, if you quit your job, we're behind." All I really needed to hear was that word, because my parents were real proud of me for having a good job and graduating from college. So I didn't want to like be a failure with my business, and then they're, you know, sad about it and stuff like that. But when my dad said, "Hey, if you do it, just do it, and we'll get behind you," kind of thing, right? Even though they didn't have to, they didn't have to give me any money or anything. I quit my job after I proved the concept that it could make money, and then it was like all in. It started getting gravity. I hired people that I used to work with. I hired my friends and family to help me in the business. And we went from, you know, by the time I quit, it was 2004, got an office space, eventually expanded to a larger office space in 2006, and just continued to grow the business and learn and partner and really go hard, right? So we went from me being the only employee to having probably 18 employees at the peak of the business. All right, so I wanted to give you all that background, right? Again, Dante has made millions of dollars with his business. I've made millions of dollars with different businesses. I've diversified. So HBCU Connect is the primary day job for me now, but now I've diversified into real estate. I started a real estate company. I own rental properties. I own 25 rental properties, including Airbnbs overseas. I started a YouTube channel and a media company for side passion projects that actually generates revenue as well. So becoming a serial entrepreneur based on all of the learnings in the past. So now it's 12:40. We've got about 15 minutes. I like to open it up for Q&A. So I'm going to ask that, you know, if you're thinking about entrepreneurial ideas, or you just have ideas about running a business, or that kind of thing, go ahead and ask those questions, but use the raise hand feature. It's a reaction feature in Zoom. Raise your hand and we'll call the questions as we see them, as you have your hands raised. So Dr. Chabela, do you have a question?
Hey guys, yes, thank you so much for sharing you guys' story. I am super excited. I'm gonna make it fast. I'm headed to actually a event for a career fair for high school students on entrepreneurship. I recently got my doctorate and I kind of have a similar story to you guys, but I went straight for accounting for 22 years. I only did accounting. I graduated from an HBCU. I went to Clark for my master's in accounting. But my question to you is, I am now a doctor and still in corporate America, 1 foot in. I'm writing a curriculum with Youth Business Alliance. I really am passionate about my entrepreneur goal and want to build my accounting career based on my company, but fear. What did you guys do to overcome your fear of not relying on corporate America? You know, well, you said that you had to leave corporate America, and now, you know, HBCU Connect is your main bread and butter. But I don't know what am I going to do without having a foot in?
No, that's a great question. I'll jump on it, and then Dante, if you want to add anything. I went through the same thing, right? So I had a 9 to 5, a good job, right? I had a good job. Had my college degree and everything, but I had this business on the side. So yes, I absolutely had fear before I quit my job, but I started surrounding myself with people that one, like Dante was an example for me of somebody who was out there as an independent person who was supporting me psychologically to say, if I can do it, you can do it too, right? And he was supporting me. So I was surrounding myself with people like that. I had my role model, my father, who was around, who I could lean on with my ideas and try to get a little bit of momentum and buy-in from him to help push me off the cliff. I was like on the cliff ready to quit my job, but I had that fear, right? For a variety of reasons. But you know what's a bigger fear? Like for me, what the bigger fear was, what happens if you 10, 20 years from now, you look back and say, what if I did this and follow my passion? So that fear, that was a bigger fear for me to have my life pass me by, and I'm 65 years old, and I look back and say, man, what would have happened if I followed my entrepreneurial pursuit? Now, before I quit, the key thing is I had a proof of concept. I had already made money with my side business for 2 years. So it wasn't a lot of money, but it was a little bit to prove my concept. So I knew by the time I quit, I was going to make more than whatever I made that previous year part-time. So what I would recommend to you is start building your business on the side to get it to prove that the concept and the clients are there. So that will help you. So once you quit, all you have to do is grow that business. But yeah, that fear of looking back on the what ifs was bigger for me. So Dante, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I had that same fear. I had that same fear. But as Will mentioned, it's important, and I see people chiming in on the comments. It's important to align yourself with other people that have the same goals that you have and that are doing what you're doing. So that was the main reason why I moved from Maryland to California, and then from California to Ohio, because I had met this group of Black entrepreneurs in LA that were doing big things, and they believed in me. And they were all older than me. Remember, I'm just 19, 20 years old. These guys were in their 30s and 40s at the time, and they believed in what I was doing. And that motivated me, that empowered me. And then, of course, all along, I had been in contact with Will, and when he said, hey, come out to Ohio and we'll make this even bigger, then yeah, that made sense. I mean, sometimes that's exactly what we need to get over our fears, because neither me or Will can tell you that we weren't concerned, or that we weren't afraid, or that we didn't feel nervous about the decisions that we're making. That's 100% normal. And I like what Will said. I wouldn't encourage anybody to just go quit your job. I don't want anybody to walk away from this like, I'm just gonna quit my job and do my business. No, what he said is very key. Make sure that the concept that you have is proven first before you do that. Make sure that you have a proven concept. Once you have that proven concept, then yeah, if it makes sense for you, then yeah, it may be time to let the job go. Here's another thing about me, and I think Will is the same way. I'm very, very disciplined when it comes to money. So I'm not the type of person that I'm going to make some money in business and then I'm going to go and buy this, these luxurious items and stuff. No, I knew that, hey, I need to be disciplined about my finances. I'm going to be 100% on my own, because as an entrepreneur, you have to figure stuff out. See, when you have a job, you just go to your job daily and you get that weekly paycheck or that bi-weekly paycheck. We all know that entrepreneurship isn't like that. So it was discipline there, just making sure that I could survive. But also, like, I think that most entrepreneurs, I would say real, genuine, serial entrepreneurs, when your back is up against the wall,
Yeah.
that's when you really produce.
Yeah, no sleep and start grinding it out.
Yeah.
So Dr. Sharana says it's not fear for me, it's the lack of knowledge. So that's an easy problem to solve. You got the internet now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you gotta figure out what you don't know that you need. Figure out what you don't know that you need, and then go educate yourself on it. And then that fear will start to dissolve away as you grow knowledge and start to apply the knowledge. Great.
Readers are leaders. Make sure you read.
Love that.
I ask entrepreneurs that a lot. Will I ask them, what books are you reading? What publications are you reading? And sadly, I don't get too much of an answer when I ask that question. When I ask people stuff like, do you read Wall Street Journal? Do you read Bloomberg? Do you read CNBC? And they usually tell me no. Or if I say, what business books are you reading? And I usually get these half-hearted answers. Make sure that you're keeping your ears to the streets so that you know what's going on in your industry. That's very, very important.
Grace, you had a question?
Yes, thank you all so much for organizing this. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I've been working as a consultant in technology, small business, working with other entrepreneurs and in higher ed for several years, but I've also been doing educational consulting on the side for about 18 years. And true to what Dante said about making people's problems, it may have been about making the problems you notice as you're going through your 9 to 5 or starting your business, additional opportunities for services you can provide or expand. I've noticed that both with my educational consulting and just other things that I've noticed in the jobs that I had when I was in grad school. So even though I've built my own website and my mom's website with the WYSIWYG editors like Wix and Shopify, I definitely don't know how to code. And so my question is, what steps can non-technical founders take to protect their intellectual property, both in terms of building an online platform, like an online learning platform, or a mobile app? Because I have a couple of app ideas that are really basic problems that people haven't solved yet. But because of that, I want to be careful about who I ask to build it.
Yeah. That last statement is the first part of the answer, right? So you want to be really careful who you choose to work with. But the other part that you probably know in the back of your head is a lawyer, a legal representative, right? So neither of us are lawyers. And like I said earlier, we both leaned in on our superpower. So while your superpower might not be coding or building an app, you can flush out your idea beyond what somebody else could steal just by hearing it on the street or something like that, right? So lean into your superpower, but before you choose someone to start to building, you want to make sure you have legal representation that can set up the right contracts for you and protect your idea, that you're asking. So Dante, I don't know if you have any experience with that.
Well, people are putting it in the comments. You need an NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement. That's your first step. And then also someone put in the comments, and this is absolutely true, go to USTPO.gov because that's where you can both trademark and patent your business. And you can also check that database to see if what you're working on has already been trademarked or patented. So those will be your first steps in that direction. Absolutely.
Yeah, and actually, there's a good comment. Like, let's get some good comment. Nyland just said, from a development perspective, build a web app rather than a mobile app. I agree with that 100%. I agree with that 100%. For one, it's probably going to be more cost effective. Two, it can be more platform independent. So whether you're talking about Android or iPhone or the new Tesla phone or whatever comes out next, that's good advice. But yeah, I would definitely have representation though. If you have like $1 million idea and you want to get it off the ground and you have to pay somebody to build it for you or give them equity to build it, you want to have like legal representation for that, because I mean, you get into all types of issues if your developers are in India or someplace overseas. How does that look? And like somebody like us, when we built our own stuff, we couldn't tell you, but someone who represents people legally from that perspective will be able to give you a concise answer on that.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, and best of luck to you. Nyland, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right, perfect. First, I got to say thank y'all so much for hosting the session. I really am just taking notes and plotting down all these gems. And I want to keep it quick and succinct. Now let's sit a fall from North Carolina A&T, Aggie Pride. Got my bachelor's and master's in computer science. And I wanted to get both of your honest opinions. So do you think that every business is viable for venture capital funding? And if so, what would you say are those key distinctions between a venture backable business and a not venture backable business? And even if you were in that process of trying to figure out if you're going to go venture or not, what made that deciding factor for you as an entrepreneur in the Black entrepreneurial space?
I'll start with that one. You know what's funny, Nyland? I don't think did we have access to venture capital when we were starting? Well, we had to self-fund. 25 years ago, there was no venture capital, not for Black entrepreneurs anyway. So we kind of self-funded what we did. I know I definitely used a credit card or two to get things going. But as far as now, yeah, that is the trend now to use venture capital. It's not a bad idea to do that. Just make sure that you understand the terms, because obviously when you're receiving capital, you're giving up equity. So the one thing that me and Will probably didn't mention in the beginning is that we still own 100% equity of what we built. Will owns 100% equity of HBCU Connect, and I own 100% equity of everything that I've built. And that's a good thing. Now, I'm not saying it's bad to pursue venture capital, because sometimes you need that to get to the next step. But I mean, you guys watch Shark Tank, right? I mean, we've all seen episodes of Shark Tank. So just make sure that you know your numbers. Make sure that you're getting involved with the right people, because that can go south really quick if you're involved with the wrong people. And I would say probably don't go after venture capital unless you absolutely need to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
That's crucial. I'll add a little bit, because like Dante said, we did not go after venture capital because our superpowers made it possible for us to build our own products or services. But there did arrive some opportunities to take venture capital later on for HBCU Connect. But the thing that made me stay away from it was once you take that venture capital, you got partners. And one of the things my dad told me early on, once you have partners, like on paper partners, you have bosses, right? Because their money is at stake and their interest at stake. So they're going to be calling shots on things, right? And it depends on how you organize your contract. But once you take that money, they're going to have a say-so, right? And whatever those terms are. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to stay away from it. But we also were in a place, we're in Columbus, Ohio. We weren't in Silicon Valley, so we didn't have access to it as much. But one of the parts of your questions was, what are they going to be looking for? So they're going to be looking for the viability of your business. Just like Dante said, you've seen Shark Tank. It's going to be a conversation like that. So you've got to pitch your business. You got to show the viability of it. You got to show how that business can scale. And basically, you've got an investor who has money. They're willing to give you money as long as they can not guarantee a return, but they want a high probability of getting a high return on their money. So you have to be able to show them that you can do that. But what does that sound like? That sounds like you got a boss. You know what I'm saying? Like you're going to be making sure that they get their money. But sometimes you have to do that. You know what I mean? Sometimes to scale, you might have to just do that. So I don't want to push you away from that if that's something that your idea might need. But
yeah, it's not a bad idea. People do that all the time. People do it all the time. But just understand what it involves. I think that's what we'll say. Hey, on Shark Tank, this is the #1 question that I've seen Kevin O'Leary ask, right? Mr. Wonderful. He always asks, what's proprietary about your business? And I think that's part of the answer to your question, Nyland, as well. When you're going after venture capital, they're looking at what's proprietary about this. Can this easily be duplicated? Or can we put a patent on this and lock this down? But to Will's point as well, yeah, I mean, you bring in these investors, and honestly, you may go from being an entrepreneur to an employee to them, having to answer them, having to work for them, having to meet their demands. And that's why me personally, I'd like to not pursue that route. Personally.
All right, thanks for that question. Hey, we've got only a couple of minutes left. I have to run to the next professional development session, which starts at 1 o'clock Eastern time with Kellogg. And they're going to be talking about navigating corporate America strategies for taking your piece of the PIE. I noticed we had a couple more questions. I would say drop those questions in the chat along with your email address, and we'll follow up with you. So go ahead and drop those questions in the chat along with your email address. And
I'll put my number in the chat too. Well, anybody who wants to reach out, call or text me, feel free to do so.
That's major. That's major.
Yeah.
I don't answer my phone, so that wouldn't be to anybody. But everybody has my email address, because if you're at this event, you probably got an email from me. So if you respond to any of those HBCU Connect emails, I'll get it. So
also, you guys can follow me on Facebook. Follow me on Facebook. If you find me on Facebook, Dante Lee, because I actually talk about, I push content like this out all day long about entrepreneurs. And I like to tell stories. I like to share success stories. So follow me on Facebook. Let me drop that into. and feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to share more of the story, because we left out a lot of details, Will. It's just a lot happened, you know.
We need hours to talk about this. But hey, let me thank Dante for joining me. Dante is somebody I admire, somebody that's like turned into from a business partner to a brother to me.
For sure.
So thank you for supporting the event. Dante is also an HBCU graduate with a computer science degree from Bowie State University, and is now a serial entrepreneur that has produced millions of dollars in business. So definitely follow Dante, and you are in good space if Dante is handing out his contact info, because he's someone that's in high demand. All right, so I think I thank you all.
Thanks, Will, for the invitation. Appreciate it.
Of course, I dropped the link to the next session in case you guys want to come in and meet the team from Kellogg that's going to produce on navigating corporate America strategies for taking your piece of the PIE. But we wanted to make sure to have some entrepreneurial content as well. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Y'all be safe out there.
Yeah, take care. Thanks, Dante. I'll hit you up later.
Okay, cool.
Okay, peace.